All right, hello everyone, and welcome again to another great Zoom podcast. I don't even know; I haven't named these things yet. Uh, Today, following up on a series of what we've already been talking about, which is if I had the time to do it, I would. So we're talking about that. We're going out, reaching out to local experts that we know, that we're friends with, that can share their information to help you connect with the people you need to connect with, which is your customers. Now, joining me today is a friend that is no stranger to data mining and pulling out the gold nuggets that will lead you to the bigger piece of gold. And he's going to be sharing some secrets on using newsletters and emails to connect that. So we have Eustan Matthews. Eustan, how about you introduce yourself to those who don't know you?
My brother, how are you? Trevor, nice to be on the show.
I am well, thank you.
I'm Eustan Matthews. As Trevor said, love data, love seeing how can I get a return on my investment with marketing. I love using email because it's easy to track. So anything like that is amazing. And a lot of the stuff that I've tested, we actually have a few different companies that we run. And that's how we sort of use email. We use email to grow our businesses. And that's what I'm here to talk about today.
Perfect. So, Eustan, the reason I thought about you was I had, other than many other reasons to think about you, which
Yeah.
was I did an email campaign,
Yeah.
and I thought, you know what, I got some really good results, but I want to talk about that later so we can break it down once people know. But
Absolutely.
when we're talking about emailing clients, there's so many ways that you can email clients to reach out to them, whether it's one-to-one, one-to-many, whether it's creating a like some sort of segmentation of your emails.
Yeah.
We're talking to people who are maybe just starting out with this, maybe who are not used to doing or giving that hard sales pitch, because a lot of people, they say to me, I don't want to do email marketing because I don't like being bugged. And
Yeah.
we explain to them that, listen, if you're giving them valuable information and they're reading it, you're not bugging them. Um,
Absolutely.
but where do you start if you've not done this before, or if you send out, here's what I get when I say how many people are on your list. It's nowhere near what it should be. But two is, when's the last time you sent out a newsletter? Oh, I'd have to say 3 months ago because I
Yeah.
don't want to bug people. Where do you start with this, and how often should you be reaching out and connecting with your audience?
So I think one of the first things I would say is just determine how people are getting on your list and invite them to get to know you, right? So the first few emails you send, just let people know a little bit about you, a little bit about your company, thank them for signing up, and that can be done in a sequence. So everybody who is new to your newsletter, they would get that sequence saying, "Hey, this is who Trevor is. This is what I'm doing. This is how I can help you. And by the way, this is what you can expect going forward," right? And there's usually about 10 things you want to stick in there, but that's how you want to start it off. Now, whether you do that in one email or you do that maybe over 2 or 3 emails, that's fine. But you just want to introduce yourself right away and let them know what they can expect. And then in terms of once you've sent that sequence, then I would like to say once a week at the bare minimum, because you don't want to wait 3 months, because as you know, it's recency and consistency, right? You got to be consistent and you got to be recent. So that's it. I would say minimum weekly. Once you've got them on your list, you should be sending email.
Okay, so introductory email to start off with. Hey, how are you? This is a great time. Also, you and I were kind of listening to this, well, we were listening to the same webinar yesterday, and a
Mhm.
great time to reach out to people just to check in. So is that a good reason, or a good enough reason to send out a hello and a touch point to your audience?
Absolutely. It's funny. Yeah, we were on the same webinar yesterday, and I reached out to a number of different people right yesterday after that webinar,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things where it wasn't a sequence. It wasn't. It was just me reaching out manually, one to one, as you said. But that's okay as well, right? But if you're talking newsletters, you want to have something that's consistent. And I would actually brand your newsletter as well. And that's something I'm working on right now for mine is just call it something like provide some sort of value to them. But if you have, you know, it could be, I don't know if you get the hustle, but there's lots of different email newsletters that I sign up for because I enjoy email and I just want to see what other people are doing, right?
Yep.
But you brand your newsletter, whatever it is. So if you run a soap shop, right, it's the weekly soap news or whatever it is, right? Like have a name for it and treat it like a product. So treat your newsletter like you would a product that you're selling.
Okay. So I love that idea. That's one that I've not thought of. I do put a lot of thought into what I would say is the first thing people see, which is the byline and that first little snippet of information that your email shows, so that you can read the first 15, 20 words to determine am I going to open this or not. And that, but calling it a newsletter, so that's great information there. What about that byline and that first snippet? I know a lot of people who are just used to sending an email from their Gmail or from their email, their Outlook, might not realize that third-party email programs allow you to change that introductory line that people can see, so that you can have a slightly more, what dare I say, marketing spin to it. What any information on open rates on well-written, we'll call them headlines or subject lines?
Well, it's just like a blog, right? I can't give you specific information. I know, I think that's one that's missed because there's a lot of people that send messages. I receive emails. I receive a ton of emails. And a lot of people actually don't even bother changing that. So what ends up happening is you'll see an image, and you've probably seen this where it says image or some sort of logo, because what's happening is it's actually taking the text from the image because they have an image in the first section of their email. So I think absolutely that's an opportunity that's missed. I treat that, to be quite honest with you, I think of it as the headline, the byline, right? Like the subject, like, can I get them to read the subject line, right? That's it. If they read the subject, can I get them to read that little snippet that you're talking about? If I can get them to do that, can I get them to click? And that's it. Like, that's how I treat email. So all I'm trying to do is get you to click once, then click one level down, and then get into the email. And that's it. It's not rocket science, but you really have to put some thought into it. And a lot of the times, I use ActiveCampaign. I think you use Campaign Monitor, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But it's the same. I mean, it's just a platform. They all work pretty well. But I think I always, that snippet that's in there, usually that's not related to something that's in my immediate email. So if you read that section, that won't be necessarily what's written in my email. It'll have the same sort of vibe, but it may not be exactly the same, because the purpose of that line is to get you to click into the email.
Right.
So I think that's something that's missed by a lot of people, especially if they don't, as you say, if they're used to Outlook, Gmail, all those things where you can't change that information.
Well, and I mean, you were starting down this path. It was, I don't know if you ever followed Derek Halpern back in the day. We're going back a few
You're going
years,
way back, man.
But the way back machine. But he used to say the job of the first line is to get you to read the second line. The job of the second line is to get you to read the third line. And when we're putting together emails, sometimes we do things off the cuff that we just want to throw it out, but it really has to be articulated to make sure that we get the audience and the reader down to where we need them to get down to, which is either an action, click here, which is, or it's just an affirmation by the end of the email that we want to share with them. But what we don't want is to have them click off before finishing the second paragraph. And
no, absolutely not.
So I'm glad that you have brought that up. And you also brought up the ActiveCampaign, Campaign Monitor. I know a lot of people will be using MailChimp because of the ease of use. What was the other one back in the day everyone was using? Constant Contact. Oh, Constant Contact. So I'm not fans of either of those, and that has nothing to do with their products. If you need to start somewhere, start there. I'm, though, just a big fan of plain text emails. because I like to write emails as if I'm writing them to my mom, or if I'm
Yeah.
writing them to my brother, or if I'm writing them to you. I would not layer an email or a letter full of stories all the way through it. I would write to you. Um,
Mhm.
we're talking to, or people watching this will be in from a business um, end of things. Is it
Yeah.
still okay to use personal language when writing? And I'm looking at the wrong camera. Is it okay to use? I've been looking at the wrong camera the whole time. I better move this over here. My other camera's not on. Is it okay
Yeah.
for? I need a drink. Look at this.
Well, I'll run with that. So is it
Yeah.
okay to send plain text emails, I guess? Is that what you're asking? Or
And are we using business speak, or are we using common everyday language speak?
okay, so I can actually, this is something that we tested in our business. So we used to use MailChimp way back in the day, as you said, because that's what you do to get started. And we switched to ActiveCampaign, and our emails are set up pretty much the same way that they were set up on MailChimp. Lots of images, lots of, business speak. And it was all right for, we didn't know any better. And then I started looking at the emails I was receiving and the ones that I was engaging with, and I'm like, that's interesting. All the emails that I engage with are actually just plain text emails, right? Did a little bit of research and found, okay, well, this is a thing. So I rewrote our entire sequence with plain text, and now I've gotten better at it, but I got my wife to I told her, this is what it needs to sound like. This is what you need to do. And she uses the big, you know my wife, Jen, you know how Jen speaks.
Yep.
Like she uses the capitals like wow in her emails, like all of that is in there, emojis, everything.
But you want to capture her voice.
Absolutely. And you know what? And I started writing all of her emails like that now. And a lot of the sequences that we do in that business, even though it's her voice, it's me writing the emails and it sounds like her. She'll look at them and she'll say, wow, like you actually, okay, just change this word. But for the most part, she keeps a lot of it. And if you were to speak to her, that's what she sounds like. That's how you want to write an email. Right? If somebody, you just, like you basically want it to be, however you speak, when they talk to you, that's what that email should sound like.
Here, if it says, hello, Trevor Sharuka, I don't go past that because they do not know who I am. I don't go by my first and last name. If they say, hello, Mr. Sharuka, I do not read past that. If it says, hey, bro, even if they don't know me, I've been caught and I'm in the game. And Eustan, I know you've been caught too. I love it when I'm reading an email and I'm like, these guys must know me from somewhere. And I realize, no, it's just a well-written email that pulled me in. Hey, I just want to back up a little bit. Can you explain to the audience what a sequence is?
Oh, absolutely. So we have our business, Salsa Babies, and what we do is we get people to buy in to a licensing situation, and then they teach our classes elsewhere. So when they first want to become a licensee with us, we actually have a sequence of emails. So basically, it's one email, actually it's about 16 emails that they get over a period of about 6 or 8 weeks, okay? Now, depending on whether they read certain emails or whether they take certain actions, they might get a different email, okay? But it's planned out exactly the way we want it. And the call to action ultimately is for them to book a call. So once they book a call with us, they're taken out of that. So they won't receive any more emails. But it's well thought out. All the objections that they may have or all the questions that they may have about the program, we try to answer all of those in this sequence that happens over time.
And I think that the mind-blowing part of sequencing that people may not realize is the person that checks in to Salsa Baby on April the 1st and wants information, they receive email 1, then email 2. And then the person who checks in on April the 15th, even though that first person is now up to email 7, that email sequence starts at number 1 with that person. Exactly. And then the person who gets in on April the 23rd, even though the first person is now finished theirs, the second person has started, it starts. And so the value of taking that time, and again, this is why we're talking today, if only I had the time, The
Yeah,
value of taking that time is you know the questions that people are going to ask, you know their hurdles. It's almost like a choose your own adventure, as you said. Depending
exactly.
on what I click on in the
Mhm.
email, will kind of direct me to what email I get next. So
Yes.
I'm really, though I'm not in charge, I sort of am
Mhm.
in charge of what I'm going to receive. And your sequencing, it can either
Yeah,
make you or break you.
absolutely. And we changed it because when we had it, our first sequence, which wasn't very good, like it wasn't well thought out, to be quite honest with you, because you're just starting out and you don't know any better.
Right.
But once you start, I think the biggest thing, Trevor, I found is once you know, or you've had enough conversations to find out what the objections are and what people want to know, then you can craft a really good sequence because now you know all the questions that people ask. You know all the challenges that they're having, and you could speak to them and those problems or those challenges directly. And that's when a sequence becomes very valuable. So if you're starting off a business brand new, it's probably not the best time to try to set up a sequence because you don't know enough about your customers. But once you've had enough conversations and you kind of understand who you're targeting, and you also understand who you enjoy working with, then that's the best time to set up a sequence.
Right now, my favorite readings and musings are the Gary Halbert letters. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and that one of the things that he talked about, he's passed on now, but his
yeah,
sons are carrying on that legacy,
yeah.
is answer the question that's in your reader's head at the time they are reading. And if you
Yes,
can do that, that's when you're totally in tune with that reader.
yeah,
And now I'm just throwing that out there. It's easier said than done. It's something that
yes,
could take. I mean, I know they talk about the number one letter that Gary wrote, and he took 18 months writing it. So a lot of people want to sit down and write an email or newsletter in 15 minutes and send it out. No, it's got to be refined and have somebody else read it out loud. You know, do whatever it is that you can do, but send it out when it's perfect. It
yes.
is what is kind of what I like to follow. Um, Now, another tough question that people get stuck on when they're just starting out is they get catatonic when they see the unsubscribers.
Mhm.
You know those dreaded. Back in the day, you know, you and I were shaking like bears in the wood.
Absolutely.
When, oh my goodness, 3 people unsubscribed to my newsletter. I can't
Yeah,
sleep tonight.
yeah.
What's your what are you thinking about unsubscribers and how do we handle them?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you two things because I just want to back up and give you one sort of based on what you said about, you want it to be perfect, right?
Yes.
So here's one thing I'll say. One of the best emails ever that we sent, I actually made a mistake. Okay. So what happened was it was a Sunday morning and it was a Saturday morning, I believe. Maybe it was Sunday. It was Saturday or Sunday. And I wanted the email to go out on Monday morning. Okay. And I set up the sequence and I hit the button. And for some reason, I didn't put send it out on Monday. It went out today. Okay. So we're actually driving to London,
Oh,
right? And all of a sudden, my wife is like, why are all these people emailing me? Right? All these people are emailing me, and it turns out for us, Saturday was a great time, Saturday morning, to send an email, right? Um, and why I bring that up is a lot of people are actually emailing her and saying, you know what, now is not the best time. Maybe you guys can follow up with me. And this was an automated email. My wife didn't actually send this email. This was completely automated. And my wife was saying, why aren't they unsubscribing? And I'm like, this is incredible. They think you just emailed them personally. That's exactly what we want.
yeah.
But on that list, to be quite honest with you, I would rather see some unsubscribes because when people unsubscribe, they're saying to you, I'm no longer interested in what you're saying. It's no longer of interest to me. So in that case, you have a couple choices. You can say, okay, how many people are unsubscribing, right? And if the unsubscribes aren't as high, then maybe the problem is those people, they just no longer need you, which is fine. Now, if other people aren't engaging with your emails and some are unsubscribing, you have a problem, right? But if there's people engaging with your emails and others unsubscribing, that's a great problem to have because that's a great way to sort of par your list down. You know, I love unsubscribes now because the message is not for you.
Sure.
And if it's a well-crafted email, it should be crafted for that person. I want Trevor. And if Trevor doesn't want it, then Trevor is not my person.
And you're absolutely right. If you sent salsa babies over and I received it and I unsubscribed, you're okay with that because
Oh, yeah, I'm loving it.
really it's maybe Tabitha that you're trying to reach. So you want to get me out of the way as fast as possible, so that when you're writing every sequence after that, you're talking to many, but it's as if you're talking to one, because everybody at that point should be of one mind. I guess is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so to get down to some nitty gritty,
here we go.
Here we go. Now the working hats are on.
Yeah.
So I sent out an email, had 250 people from our business one. So I can make it a little bit personal. I use the fact that everybody is kind of hunkering down just to say, hey, listen, I know a couple of things that I know. One, people have a lot more time on their hands than ever before. Even though they're working from home, it's not like you're not doing the drive to work, you're not doing lunch, you're not doing meetings. You have more time to fiddle and look around. So I know that sending out an email now, pretty high chance that it's going to be opened and read.
Yeah.
So I put together the email and I sent it out to 250 people. 171 clicked on it and opened and read, and then I had a very light link at the end, which was just going back to our website. It had nothing to do, it just was under my signature. That was the only link. My goal to this was just reaching out and letting people know that, hey, if you were ever wanted to have more time on your hands, now is the time. Maybe you want to do a blog, maybe you want to do a video, maybe you want to do a newsletter, maybe you want to do something, but start doing it now and leapfrog ahead of your competition.
Yeah.
So I do that. I have 171, 173, somewhere around there open it. So 75 or 65% open, which, as you know, it's a stupid number.
Yeah.
But because people are bored and people we crave content. So right now is a great time to be reaching out to your customers.
Yes.
So let's talk this through so the people at home can follow this.
Okay.
I want to sequence this. So now I want to reach out to the 175 that opened it, and I want to give them a gift. The gift is I'm going to send them this video that you and I are doing to encourage them as they are reading a newsletter to say, hey, this is how many people opened it. You should be doing the same thing to you.
Yeah.
So what's my next email? And then 2, what about the 75 that didn't open it?
Oh, perfect. I was hoping you'd bring that one up. Okay, so I would actually send an email to the people, as you said, who open the email, right? And just say, hey, actually, I guess if they open that email and watch this video, hey guys, we're talking to you.
Yeah, okay.
But you send them that email and you basically say, hey, you know what? I noticed that you, and if you want to do this, you can, but you could say, you may be considering email at this time. Here's some of the results that we got, and here's a great conversation. And you know that they've clicked on that email, so they're interested, right? Now, for the 75 who didn't, then you could say something like, hey, you know what? Here's something an interview that I did that you might be able to utilize in your business. Check out this video. Now, the one thing I would do is I would always put a link in an email, okay? And the reason I would do that is just so that I can track it, right? Like,
right.
They opened it, but are they actually reading it? So I would put a clear call to action in there and make sure that they can see it, and then just have them click on it. And what I would probably do is I would put it in a couple different formats, okay? So I would put one, which is like hidden, like a hyperlink.
Yep.
So it's basically click here, right? And then the other one is just a naked link where it's the actual URL.
Okay.
So I would probably do both at different points in the email.
Right.
Because then what I could do is I could say, okay, people, X amount of people clicked at the beginning, right? And then so many people clicked on the second link. So I can kind of tell how many people are reading my emails.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, I'm going to be following this through. So Again, if you were part of the group that opened the first email,
Yes.
as Eustan said, hey guys.
Hey guys, how are you?
Thanks for checking in. This video is really for you.
It
to
is.
Say, start reaching out and connecting with your customers, and we wanted to share some valuable information. And if you're part of the 75 that didn't, hey, this video is also for you. Different way of trying to bring you in. But I've now segmented. We didn't talk about segmenting your audience.
Yes.
So I'm now segmenting my audience. I have 175 that opened it, 75 that didn't. What's the value of segmenting an audience?
Well, now you know that people are interested in, like, so what happens now is you have 175 people that are, they're interested in content.
Yeah.
Right? They have, they're interested in content. So now let's say 100 of those people, so there's 100 of you guys right now watching this and open this email, right? So let's say those 100, now you know that they're interested in email. Okay? So you can actually now set up a sequence that says, hey, you know what? Here's 5 ways that you can get some value by using email, right? Here are 6 stats that you can utilize in your business to see whether or not your email is performing, right? Here's an email swipe file that I created for you guys that you could just use right now, right? Because they're interested in email.
Right.
So that's how segmentation becomes very valuable. Now, I think you did one with networking, right? You did a call with networking with Jason, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I did one with networking. I've also done another interview with podcasting.
Yes, exactly.
And then I've got email marketing is this one. So there really is a series and a sequence of how to connect with your audience that's out there using multiple ways of doing it.
So now the power of sequencing is if you're sending out emails, right? If somebody clicked on podcasting, let's just say podcasting and email, right? Now your play becomes here's how you can utilize podcasting and email to grow your business.
So really I could, talking about multiple links,
yes,
I could put all 3 links in there to say, hey, here's how we put these learning tutorials together for you. Just click and watch away. Hopefully you learn something. We're hoping that you can learn something. There's great value in it. And then now I can measure and again sequence again, because here's the beauty thing of using third party versus just your native email is it will tell you who is actually clicking on those links. So if I send it out and Eustan clicks on the link, I will know that Eustan clicked on the podcasting link. So now I know, as opposed to if I just send it through Outlook
Gmail.
or Gmail. Now I know, hey, who's clicking on the link, and now again I can segment that list even more to okay, here's my open rate, and here's the people who are interested in podcasting because they based on what they're clicking on is essentially what we're doing. Yeah, and we can do that. So you're really opening up my brain.
Okay, and Trevor, can I give you one tip?
You've just given me 10.
Okay, let me give you one tip to make that better.
Okay.
Send those emails out over a period of 3 days.
Okay.
The reason is if I'm interested in all 3, then like on the first day I'll click on it, second day I'll click on it, third day I'll click on it, right?
Oh, so rather than putting all 3 in one email.
Yeah, because if you put all 3 in one email, now I'm going to pick one.
Got it.
But I may be interested in all 3.
Got it. Right? Okay.
So I would spread that out over a sequence, right? Yeah. That way you get you actually get a better baseline test by doing it that way, because now you have 250 who are seeing every single link and every single email, right?
Okay.
Versus if I'm only interested in email, I might not, I may need podcasting, I may be interested in it, but I just click on the first one.
No, and you're right. And once I click on one, am I really going to go back to the email to read it again to see what my other choices are? No, I'm going to click on the one and go. So. And
then cat video is going to get me, and that's it. It's done.
Well, and you know what? That actually brings me back to what a lot of the great email writers talk about, which I was going to break that rule, which is sell one thing per email. So
Yep.
we're in tune with each other there. So yeah, don't
Yes.
offer 16 things in the email. One,
Yes.
and whatever that one thing is, make sure you push that one thing.
But Trevor, one thing I'll say though, that brings up such a good point, because like you and I know this stuff, and sometimes in the excitement to do it, you think, oh, like this is easier. Because you know what? I always say to people, what's easy for you isn't always best for your clients, right? Like the easiest thing for you to do is to send one email with 3 links. What's best for your client is to see each email separately, because then they can actually know exactly what they want, what they need, and run with it, right? So it's what's easy for you isn't always best for your customers from a marketing perspective.
Okay, yeah, you know what? That totally makes sense. And then if we skip back a little bit into the interview,
Yeah.
we were talking about we're testing everything, and then you said you accidentally sent something out on a Saturday instead of the Monday.
Yeah.
So knowing when to send out emails, I mean, I've really been a fan, and this is a broad stroke.
Yeah.
Um, Later in the week, when people are slowing down and they have nothing to do, in the afternoon, because it's now 3 o'clock on, say, a Thursday, or well, right now it's 4:23 on a Thursday. So now would be, if we weren't doing this, hey, great time to hit people. Actually, they might be finishing work in 10 minutes. So between 1:30 or 2 and about 3, I found are for myself a nice
Mhm.
sweet spot to hit business people.
Okay.
But you're still saying, and I like the idea of sending out multiple emails, because I'm not going to wait 3 weeks to send them out. It'll also be a nice little test to see, am I getting the same open rate on a Tuesday, or if I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, am I getting the same open rate on a Monday that I do on a Friday,
Yeah.
which can, even though I'm thinking I get great traction on a Friday, maybe Monday's better, maybe Wednesday's better.
It's funny because when you say like Friday, I find, and again, you're absolutely right. It's your market. So I would say test it. And it's bad because every answer is test it, but it
Yeah.
really is test it to see what works best. Um, I think that, oh, and I just had a mind blank right there because I was just about to say something and I forget what triggered my mind to say it. Oh, the sequence, right? Because you said you're going to send it over 3 days.
Yeah.
So I would say broadcast, like there's 2 types of emails, and you know this. There's the broadcast email where you send it every Friday or every Thursday or every whatever, or maybe
Yep.
you send it once off. And if I'm on your list, I'm going to get that email. And if I'm not on your list, I'm not going to get that email. But back to your point with the sequence, regardless of when somebody signs up, you can have it that they will go through that sequence. So I think it's important to use both, because here's an example. Every week you send out a weekly email, right?
Right.
And let's say somebody in 6 months, right? You send out an email with a link to a podcast link in it, right? Well, maybe they didn't get this sequence when you sent it out, but because they click on, now you put them into the sequence email that says, here's some information, here's a 3 email sequence on podcasting.
Right.
So that's a good way to use your broadcast email as a segmentation tool, right? So every week you send out an email, and then if they click on the link, it goes into a sequence that's focused on that particular topic.
Nice. So we're getting deep here, but
I know.
So to roll it back to people who have maybe not started utilizing their audience and reaching out to their audience through newsletters. One, the best way. Here's kind of the path that I use. Eustan, you can add something after this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Best way to connect with somebody, belly to belly, as they used to say, or toe to toe, or belt to, or wallet to wallet, as they would say. So that's number one.
I like that.
Number 2 is a referral. Number 3 is a letter, preferably something that's bulky, as Dan Kennedy would say, so that they fill it and they've got to see what's inside.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, a lot of people like to jump to social media, but I like to say email is next, because it's still very personal, still one-to-one. So it's a great tool that if you've not used it, to go ahead and start utilizing it to reach out to your customers. We're
It
creatures that
is.
we're creatures that need to absorb information more than any other decade. Like, we love to get information, and if people are opening
Yeah.
your email, then or however you're reaching out to them, but in this case we're talking emails, it means they want that information. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting when I send the email out tomorrow with this video to see
Yeah.
what the open rate is, and I will certainly be sharing it with everybody
Yeah.
once you get in on the emails and the sequencing of that. But once you receive it, and if I get the same numbers, what that confirms to me is that I am an amplifier for information, and
Yeah.
I've tapped into a list of 250 people that want to absorb that information.
Yes.
And until you start reaching out to your audience, until you start measuring that, it's hard to confirm that what I just said. But where are you with where email sits in reaching out and touching your customer? Would you be about the same, like right after the bulky mail and above social media? Is that where you would put emailing, or where would you put it?
Well, it's interesting. So in Salsa Babies, email is it. Like, that's how, like, you can't join the company without going through our sequence.
So you can't, survival of your company relies solely on email.
On email, yeah. And again, like, so for me with the marketing, like because I do marketing as well, then all of the things that you're saying would be more relevant, right? So now, yes, belly to belly, but I would still say email to me is very important. And it just comes down to, I guess the biggest thing is, what email allows you to do is nurture a lead over time. Because the worst thing you see people doing is trying to make the sale in the first conversation. That doesn't happen. That'd be like proposing marriage on the first date, right? It just doesn't happen.
It's interesting you say that. In our training classes, I often talk about back in the day when you would court your wife. You're not going to ring the doorbell and ask her to marry you the first time. I mean, unless you're a big gambler, you have to baby step it, because let's face it, the only thing on your mind is, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you held her hand.
Yes.
You want to make sure, if you were lucky, you might have got a little peck on the cheek by the end of it.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
You wanted to make sure that she said, you know what, we can go out again, give me a call. And that's what you were selling. You weren't selling marriage, house, kids, fence, dogs, mortgage, and car loans. You weren't.
Could you imagine what would your wife, like, I know Tabitha, what would she have said if you did that? Like, or my wife, what would Jen have said? Like,
latch hysterically and shut the door on you. Yes. And you brought up a word that is often not used when we talk about selling, which is relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing I love about email is, like, people think of selling, you have the funnel. Everybody knows the funnel, right? And most business owners, it's like top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. Yeah. And then once I convert them into a sale, it's done. No, that's a great time to use email to nurture those people and keep in touch with them, right? Like, have a special newsletter just for clients, or, like, give them something that is valuable to existing clients.
Absolutely. Okay, so Eustan, I mean, when I say you, but I'm going to say we've certainly shared a lot of great information. You have actually really challenged me on what I'm going to write next, and I know that the people that are watching are thinking in their minds too. Hey, I want to take advantage of this, but their next question is, where do I start? Like what do I do? So let's wrap this up and go back to the beginning. Where do you start if you've never done this before? You're scared to death to do it, but you just want to try. Like, what would you suggest?
Oh, see, part of the problem is, one thing we didn't talk about is you have to have permission to email these people.
Well, I was going to say at the end of this that we should have a castle. We should have a castle video that's going to be linked to this. But you know what? That's going to be part of the sequence.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so
So,
go ahead.
okay. So I would say, like, assuming that you know your ideal clients, assuming that you know the problems that they have and you know where you want to get them to in terms of a sale, like what do you want them to ultimately do? I would say a great place to start is to just like send an email to them and say, hey, if you would like to receive this valuable information, just click here to sign up. If not, we just won't email you. Because if you have existing customers, you are legally able to email them, right? If they're existing customers. So that one's probably easier, is to start with people who are already customers, just start emailing them, but offer them the opportunity to sign up and just say, hey, we're giving away something valuable. In your case, maybe it's a webinar, or maybe it's like a cheat sheet, or I was just thinking of a swipe file,
Yep.
might be as well. And that's probably something I can offer people is like a 3 email sequence swipe file, like how to structure your email that way. Like that's probably something I could, but if you want to put a link to it, I could probably create it tonight.
There we go. And so an easy place to start, because when people say, I don't know if I have an email list, go to your accounting program.
Yes.
Because if it's a customer, first of all, if it's we won't get into the nitty gritty, but express an intent, consent to reach out to them. Expresses if somebody sends you a note and says, hey, can you tell me a little bit more information about what you do? They've reached out to you. They started the communication. You are allowed to communicate back to them.
Yeah.
It's that's express. Intent is if they've come into your operation and they buy something from you,
Yes.
and you have their information, that's intent. You are also allowed to reach out to them. So
yes.
Here's what Castle doesn't want. First of all, I've said this many times. It was to stop Pfizer from flooding your email box and my email box full of the Pfizer drug. That's really what it was for. But they had to hit everybody. So don't go to a networking meeting and grab 100 business cards and assume that you can start emailing people.
That's so
you could get in trouble for that. If you belong to an association, slightly different. So if you're a member of an association and
Chamber
I'm a member,
of Commerce,
if you're in the chamber and I'm in the chamber, you're allowed to email me because we're both in the same association, and all that as well. So there's a lot of ways to get around this to build your list quickly. But the easiest, dump your or export your list from your accounting program and start emailing those people, because first and foremost, they're already your customers and they've already asked for information. Pro tip: go through the list, and all those customers, that one or two customer that might be upset at you, take them off the email list, because they'll just email you back nasty stuff anyways.
Yeah, that's so true.
But everyone else is a customer of yours, so it's a warm customer. But what's the easiest sale to make? To a person who's already trusted you before and already is a customer. Reach out to those customers rather than trying to build new ones, and more will come in. And the next step would be, as Eustan was saying, have a little, we would call it a tripwire, have a little nugget, have something that you can say, click on here if you want to receive more information. So right then and there, add them to the email and all that. So there's many ways to do it. Some is a little bit heavier lifting, but assuming that you're reaching out to the people who are in business with, who have already done business with you, just like Eustan said, either send them out an email to say, hey, we're sending out some valuable information. Click here if you want some more info. If it's a new list, you can always say click here to be added to it. But if it's someone you've done business with, just start communicating with them. And if you have to, it'll pain me a little bit, but use MailChimp. It's for new people. It's pretty simple and easy. Any other pro tips? Give us a pro tip for newbies using and getting into this the first time.
Just look at the actual results. Don't just send emails and then don't do anything, right? Look at what's opening. And it doesn't matter what open rates of emails are. What matters is your open rate versus your old open rate.
Yes.
Right? So if your open rates are getting better, your emails are getting better. If your open rates are getting worse, your emails are getting worse.
Yeah, it really is. It's golf. You're only competing against yourself. I can tell you this: if you have a large list, I've had large lists into the tens of thousands, and getting an open rate of 6, 7, 8%. Hey, we were quite happy with that.
Hmm.
The smaller the list, so if you have your business list, yeah, you should expect to have 30% and above for open rates
Yeah.
to do that. Now, if you have 20%, no, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And that, so don't be discouraged if it's a low number, because this is just the beginning, and it's going to grow from there. And that, just like Eustan said, you got to measure this. Look at what you did the week before. If last week was 17% open rate or 25%, and this week is only 10%, there's a reason why. Is it the title? Is it the date? Is it the information, that the little snippet that opens up beforehand? What is it? And usually once you start uncovering that, you can uncover the reason for the loss of opens.
Yes.
And Eustan, if people wanted to follow you, how can they get a hold of you? How can they follow you?
If you go to Eustan Matthews, EUSTANMATTHWS, EustanMatthews.com, there's links to all the different companies that we run, and there's also you can book a strategy session with me if you'd like, so we can chat about this stuff.
Yep.
So
and I'm going to hold Eustan to that promise of he's going to give me a link for a swipe file. I'm going to include it. I'm going to include it in the email. So once you're on there, you're on Eustan's site and possibly into one of his sequences.
Yes, so I will definitely set up a sequence as well.
Oh man, this is too much fun, Eustan. Thank you very much, brother. Hey, listen. On another time, we'd have to make a lunch date and get together in real life. But I'm starting to enjoy this quite a bit. Thanks for sharing your valuable information.
Absolutely.
And can't wait till we can get together in real life again.
Absolutely, brother. Looking forward to it, man.
All right. Take care.
All right.